Nintendo has always been at the top, ever since they dominated the gaming industry back in the 80s and the early 90s.
It's me, Mario!
I mean, just look at Nintendo, and then look at everyone else at the time. Nintendo was that guy, crushing all competition, taking no prisoners, and completely dominating the whole of the gaming scene. But then Nintendo got too greedy and did an anime-level betrayal.
Watch your tone, boy.
And this kicked off one of the biggest generational rivalries I have ever seen. This is the story of how Nintendo accidentally created its biggest rival. To get the full story, we have to go back to the early 90s. Nintendo was already at the top of the world following the success of the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, commonly known as the Super Nintendo. This was Nintendo's 16-bit powerhouse, a machine that took the simple magic of its predecessor and leveled it up with better graphics, advanced sound designs, and a big library of what are now considered legendary games. For millions, this gray and purple box wasn't just a console. It was the gateway to amazing games like Super Mario World, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, and Street Fighter II. And this is where a brilliant young Sony engineer named Ken Kutaragi enters the picture. Now, if you don't know him, he went on to become a legend in the gaming industry in his own right. I mean, just listen to what the former president of Sony Computer Entertainment of America said about him.
He was a real visionary, and I never worked for Steve Jobs. I certainly saw him speak. I never met him, but I think he was kind of a Japanese Steve Jobs.
Now, Ken was always a bit of a rebel, and had always been fascinated with technology. And he had already secretly helped Nintendo by designing the killer sound chip for the SNES while working at Sony. Nintendo were so impressed by Ken and Sony's chip that they decided to partner up on the next big thing, a CD-ROM add-on for the Super Nintendo, which would be called the Nintendo PlayStation. Now, that sounds kind of insane. But first, you're probably wondering, what the heck is a CD-ROM anyways? Well, think of it this way. Back then, games came on plastic cartridges, which were basically small, expensive memory cards. The compact disc, read-only memory, or CD-ROM for short, was a simple disc, just like a music CD, that could be produced for pennies. And here's the game changer. A single CD-ROM held over 600 megabytes of data. The average SNES cartridge, it held about 4 megabytes. The bottom line is that one CD could hold over 150 times more information than a standard cartridge. This massive storage increase meant games could suddenly have features that were previously impossible on a console, like high-quality audio, sprawling 3D worlds, and cinematic full-motion video that could tell a real story was now possible. It was the future, and Sony knew it.
Sensational.
The Nintendo PlayStation project would have allowed it to play both SNES cartridges and new powerful games on CDs. No doubt it was destined to completely take over the industry. But shit was about to go left. In the 80s, console makers didn't make most of their money from selling the machines. The big profits came from charging game companies a fee for every game sold. Nintendo controlled this system with their cartridges. They owned the only way to publish games on their console and took a cut from every sale. But with the Sony deal, that cut from CD games would go to Sony instead. When Nintendo's president, Hiroshi Yamauchi, realized this, he panicked. It wasn't just lost profits, it meant Sony could control part of Nintendo's business and use it to enter the gaming market. His solution was simple. Cancel the deal and protect Nintendo's dominance, even if it meant betraying Sony in public. And that led us to the 1991 Summer Consumer Electronics Show, where Sony and Nintendo were supposed to get up on stage and announce the Nintendo PlayStation to the world. So Nintendo went up live on stage with Sony, waiting in the audience, eager to announce to the world the big news. But then, Nintendo dropped this. We have decided to partner with Philips and develop a CD-ROM for our Super Nintendo. Man, I wish that there was footage of this shit. It was a calculated move to publicly humiliate Sony. I mean, this is a top 5 anime betrayal. But little did Nintendo know that this was going to bite them in the ass big time. You see, Sony didn't actually give much of a shit about video games prior to this. They were more focused on TVs and CD players. But now they were pissed, and that made it their goal to get their get back. The next day, when the team was back at Sony headquarters in Tokyo, the mood was grim. The company's honor had been wounded and executives were furious. But while most saw a catastrophic failure, Sony's president and CEO, Norio Oga, saw it as a declaration of war. With that, Sony was officially unleashed. The mission was no longer to partner with the current king of gaming, but to overthrow him. And to lead this, Sony appointed none other than their visionary engineer from earlier, Ken Kutaragi.
At the time, I wrote down one PowerPoint.
Yeah.
So putting on a toy market, video game market, and beyond on those two markets, it's big. I wrote down the big circle. Okay, put on the computer entertainment, new field. Okay?
New field. Yeah.
New field. So that would not be the simple evolution from a game machine. Okay? Gathering on many entertainment field people. Okay, and so to this new platform, not a platform, new experience. So I put on another number. Okay. First, 10 million, 100 million, billion dollars, each in dollars.
Yeah.
So my ex-CEO, amazed. Ken, you took a mistake. No. The CEO, it's my right target.
But despite the Sony president's approval, there was still a massive issue with internal politics. Like I mentioned, Sony made electronics like TVs or CD players, but not gaming consoles, and actually saw it as toys for kids. The only reason why the president now cared about it was because of how pissed off he was with Nintendo.
He asked why. Why did you think we are going to fail? So nobody believed that we will be successful. Even within Sony, nobody believed that we will be successful.
To protect the project from Sony's own internal politics, Ken's team, blessed by then President Norio Oga, was moved to a completely different division, Sony Music. And this turned out to be a genius move. Sony Music understood how to manage creative talent, and crucially, they controlled the CD manufacturing plants. For 2 years, they worked in secret, building a machine that could do what no one else thought was possible: create real-time, 3D graphics on an affordable home console. You see, Sony had the technical know-how from already being an established tech company, and now with Ken, they also had the vision they needed to shake up the console world. And when they were finally ready, the world was not. In October 1993, they showed it off. They invited over 100 of Japan's top game developers, some of the same ones who had told them they would fail, into a dark room at Sony headquarters for a private demo. These developers, who lived and breathed 2D games, were not prepared for what they were about to witness. Ken hit play.
And some of you were there actually. And those people in the gaming industry, they have a lot of conversation. We communicate with each other. They are full of energy. But during demo, nobody spoke. It was silence. No conversation between each other. And they left the venue. And we were shocked. They did not think they were interested. That's what we thought. We spent entire night to prepare, and team talked to us. Maybe they didn't like it, but on the next day, we got a ton of phone calls. So it was overwhelming to them, and nobody was able to really speak.
The demo was a seismic shock to the industry. Suddenly, developers saw the future, and they wanted in. This is where Sony's background in music and Ken's open philosophy became their secret weapons. Unlike Nintendo's famously restrictive and expensive cartridge model, Sony offered developers a better deal with cheaper, easier to produce CDs. So they dropped the PlayStation 1, and man did it take off like a rocket. The Sony PlayStation was released in 1994 in Japan and 1995 in the West, quickly selling over 100 million units. It didn't just compete with Nintendo, it completely redefined the market and crushed the Nintendo 64 sales, leaving Sega in the dust. Sony had arrived, and the revenge arc was here, but this was just the beginning. This was the start of a generational 25-year-long battle that is still going on to this day. Sony dropped the PS2, and then Nintendo hit back with the Game Boy Advance. From there, Sony went on to drop the PS3, 4, and 5, along with iconic games such as God of War and Ratchet & Clank, while Nintendo dropped the Wii with Wii Sports, Nintendo DS, and the Nintendo Switch. Each company tried to one-up the other, dropping blockbuster games and innovative hardware. This fierce competition pushed the entire industry forward and gave gamers generations of incredible experiences. But man, imagine if Nintendo didn't betray Sony. We may have never gotten the PlayStation. That was a canon-level event. Another canon event in gaming was Fortnite, but that game has one of the craziest development lores I've ever seen. If you want to find out more, then click here to watch my video on it.